All right. How are you there, Raider Nation? This is the Coast to Coast Raider Nation broadcast with yours truly, the captain of the Raider Galleon, Captain Jack Racken. And I'm joined right now by a lady that we haven't heard from in 6 weeks. So it's very good to have you out here there, Andrea. How you doing there, Miss Angria Trask? Say hello to everybody. Okay, unfortunately, I hear you in my input, but I don't see you on your output, Andrea. So I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue or not, because normally you should be going on the cable output and it is not registering on your end. Okay, stand by. Let's see here. Of course, Skype setting would be good if I can figure out where the Skype setting is. Okay, audio and video settings. Speakers, should it be Rode NTSB or should it be the, let's see here, audio codec? Let's try that. Okay. All right, go ahead and talk there, Andrea. Hopefully we got you on that. Hello? Hello? Ooh, that's not good. I can't hear you. So let's go back to audio settings. Stand by a second. Boy, I apologize, folks. One of the things from coming back for when you haven't been there in a while. So we have we'll go there and all right. Andrea, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, so that's a good thing. So let's see if the output can hear you. Go ahead.
Testing, testing.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that is
Yay.
good. I can barely hear you, but at least we should have you here again. So, unfortunately, folks, apologies for the glitch. You know, one of those things when you haven't seen your lady in a while, you got to get yourself squared away. So that was 6 weeks of getting everything squared away. This is Coast to Coast Raider Nation. I am the captain, and this is Miss Angria Trask. How you doing there, hon?
I'm doing good. How have you been?
Well, I've been okay in the fact that I actually saw one Raider victory live, and that was in Arizona 2 weeks ago, and I had a lot of positivity going forward for what I expected. I shouldn't say expected. I anticipated was a possible and coulda, woulda, shoulda be victory over in Baltimore this past weekend, and I was kind of upset with the outcome.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone there. I didn't expect us to win that game. However, after watching the play in Arizona, I had kind of a little bit, I was cautiously optimistic that there was a possibility we could come out of that.
Yeah, I was going to say Arizona did everything but basically give us the game within the last 2 minutes, and you know
Hmm.
it was their mistakes that actually enabled us to win that game. But still, I really thought that it was a turning point. I mean, we hadn't won in 2 months, and then coming into Arizona and then getting out there with a victory, I thought we could build on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really encouraged by some of the stuff that I saw. The Arizona game was one of the one of the first ones. It's the first one in a long time where I've seen us play in the fourth quarter, and pretty much every other game that we haven't won, which is all of them, uh, we have just not shown up in the fourth quarter at all. Some of them we haven't even stepped on field in the second half, but the Arizona game and the Browns game were the only two that I think we've actually put something out on the field after 45 minutes.
Yeah, and the important thing was you were talking about the fourth quarter. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, the score was 20-17, and the Raiders were in the game.
Hmm.
And in fact, I'm going to see if I can get some of the stats up here. Again, not just as far as the participation. But before we go into the stats, I want to talk to you about a few things that I saw on the game there, Angria, and that was that the officiating. I mean, I hate throwing it onto the Zebras, but really the officiation of that game was extremely lacking. I mean, two of their touchdowns, the Ravens, were non-offensive. They were actually offensive to me, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. The one punt return that came about was, I mean, at least two blatant holding calls that were right in front of the officials were not called, which sprung the guy. It was a great return, but I mean, it was a great return aided with a blatant holding call, and actually two that should have been called. And then, of course, the other touchdown was a strip as of with Terrell Suggs, who had basically, I don't want to say that he was kept away from the Raiders for the whole game, but I want to say that Miller played him probably a decent game for a perennial All-Pro. Miller had him in a good straight, but at the time when he needed to shine, Suggs made the play, rumblings, like Berman would say, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, and got the touchdown. What was disheartening to see that one of our fastest players on the field, which is a wide receiver, Marcel Aitman, couldn't tackle him. I mean, that was just wrong to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although I can't give Terrell Suggs any credit other than being in the right place, right time. Matt Judon was the one who really went out there and stripped that ball like 3 times in a row. He sacked Derek Carr, and Terrell Suggs was just the one who kind of right place, right time. That he picked up the ball and ran with it. Now my problem is, why couldn't anybody tackle his fat, slow-moving, middle-30s butt so he didn't get to the end zone? That was the biggest problem I had with that. Derek was strip sacked. I get it. He had been hit a few hard times. And what you haven't mentioned yet, but I'm sure you're probably going to get to, is a couple of those quarterback knockdowns should have been late hit calls. There should have been flags, especially that first one where he really got rocked and they actually took him off the field for a down. I think it was just a down, if I recall. But there was some horrible, horrible referee calls in there. And I didn't even want to keep track of them anymore because there were just so many that were either missed completely or blatantly incorrect. Or, I mean, the few that I saw against the Raiders, none come to mind that were really blatant, that were horrible, but there were so many that were missed. I can't call it a fair game.
No, and like I said, it's always a 11 on 20. Was it 22? Well, not 22. Let me see, 11 on 21. There's like, 10 officials, and then the other 11. The Raiders always play at least 11 on 21, and I'm sick and tired of seeing it. It's just something that we have to deal with. But, I mean, when it's as blatant as it is, it just is, like I said, disheartening is the nice way to say it.
It stinks being a fan of now it's a 2-9 team, when you know for a fact that, yes, our team doesn't really like showing up in the fourth quarter, but would you? I mean, if these things were handed to you, I can't imagine anybody would want to go back to their job in the last couple of hours of their day if their boss had been either just riding them all day long, or they had been in some sort of a disciplinary meeting that they didn't belong in. I mean, that's like, I wouldn't want to go to work. That's just it. I wouldn't want to go.
Yeah.
I can't be too mad about that. I mean, I am, but I mean, I can kind of see the frustration.
Right. Well, the one thing that is, like I said, we did keep Lamar Jackson, aside from, I want to say, a really long run where I think he was, what was it, like a 65-yard run, something like that, or at least the one that he strained his hamstring on. Mm-hmm. We kept Lamar Jackson, for the most part, from killing us with the long run. I mean, and again, with a quarterback like that, you know that we were going to say, "Hey, let him beat us with his arm." And for the most part, the Raiders did keep him in check. But when the Raiders needed to get the running game in check overall, they just couldn't do it. I mean, Edwards, who is I want to say he's an undrafted free agent, ripped us for a 5 yard average, 23 carries for 118 yards. Lamar Jackson, like I said, had 11 carries for 71, but most of that was little tiny bits of yardage. I think, like I said, the one, I couldn't have been 60 because I know he had more than that. But I want to say that the one large carry was about a good 40-yarder with everything else accumulating for the other 30. Ty Montgomery on those jet sweeps, he had 8 carries for 51 or a 6.5 average. And then even Allen had 1 carry for 2 yards, big deal. But it was keeping Jackson in check, which the Raiders defense for the most part did. But by the time the fourth quarter came around, that's when most of the damage was done. And again, you had John Brown, who I think ran, what was it, like a 4.0 something 40 in the combine. Okay,
Yeah,
4.21. It seemed like
that
it was
was John
faster
Ross,
than that.
actually.
I'm sorry?
You're thinking of John Ross.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
John
I
Brown
stand
is nothing
corrected.
special.
Well, I thought he was the second coming of John Ross because he blew by us for that one large receiving, but one reception that was, thank God it was taken back for a holding penalty. But I mean, their receivers were nothing to speak of. Crabtree maligned our one defensive back on that one touchdown. I think it was Worley. Worley's playing about 10 yards back when they're on the 5 yard line, and it's like one quick jab to the right and then a quick scoop to the left, and he's in there with no problem at all. And I know that Crabtree, even though he said all of the right things after the game, that he wasn't hating on the Raiders and he liked the Raiders, and I was gonna say I didn't get any voice inflection because I was reading the article, what he said. I would imagine there was a firm tongue in cheek when he's saying that.
Probably, I would imagine. But Michael Crabtree, I mean, he can't be too mad. He made his own bed. He still dropped half of the balls that were thrown at him. So obviously Conley did a good job covering him, and Worley was probably the other three that he actually he caught, but I can't remember. But the game was really indicative of our biggest weaknesses. I think our secondary is still our Achilles heel because our run defense has actually done a job. I'm not going to say they've done a great job. They've done a decent job for what they are, which is a whole bunch of rookies and an entire defense that has never played before and never played under the scheme together. So I'm really disappointed in the way that our secondary looked and our pass defense. It was just abysmal, especially like you said at the fourth quarter. We weren't outscored more than one touchdown until the fourth quarter when we just did not show up at all. We still could have won that game if we would have scored 2 touchdowns. That's all we needed.
Right. And I'll tell you that one time that we're going back to some really bad officiating was the ticky-tack offensive pass interference call. The one in particular, because there was one on Roberts, which, yeah, it was a push, but it was a ticky-tack push. The one that hurt most of all, though, was the one that they called against Cook.
Jared Cook,
that one ended up being where instead of a touchdown eventual drive, we had to settle for the field goal. So that's the 4 points. Then you do the other 2 touchdowns against the Raider again, the one on a blatant holding call on a punt return, and then, the strip sack. It was a lot closer than that 34-17 numbers indicate there. I mean, I hate saying the moral victories. I don't even know how many moral victories we've had this year. Probably Pyrrhic victories, if anything. But the Raiders continually shoot themselves in the foot at the most inopportune times, and of course the officials are definitely there to help out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Uh, at this point in time, as a Raiders fan or someone who is observing the Raiders as a whole, there are only things that you can look at and take away from individual performances and group performances, because I don't think as a team you can look at this team and say, wow, I'm impressed with what they've done. Um, Obviously, people are down on Derek Carr, even though they're not noticing that he's quietly having one of the best years of his career, except for sacks and interceptions, obviously, but he hasn't thrown an interception in a good long while. So something is going right with him. Something is going wrong with the offensive line. And we've all seen that. We're on third stringers right now. I mean, we can't expect magic out of guys who are all hurt, every single one of them, and guys who are new to the scheme, new to football or NFL football, and basically new to each other. There's only three guys on that line that have played together, and that's our two guards and our center, and all three of them are injured still. They're all hurt. Nobody's playing fresh right now. So all we can do is look at each individual performance. We can look at the tackles, the guards. We can look at the defensive line, the front seven, and we can take away the performances that are promising. And I have seen a bunch of that this year. So I'm looking forward to another off-season training, etc., and seeing where they can go. And hopefully they get more training in. I'm hoping that training, strength and conditioning master Tom Shaw, who was supposed to come in and kill everything so that we didn't have like a string of injured players, actually can get some stuff done. And who knows, maybe they'll get rid of the CBA so guys can actually practice. That would be great.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think that they're going to do anything with the CBA. I mean, Gruden himself said that it was a learning experience to come back in to see that he basically couldn't do anything with the team, and he tried to, shall we say, bring them back to reality for what they used to be able to do. And actually,
Right.
that's a good segue there, Hannah, because I wanted to ask something about this as well. But before we go back to the Ravens game, on the Rich Eisen show the other day, James Jones was on there. Jones was both a former Raider along with a former Packer. And they were talking about Mike McCarthy and Mike McCarthy's role in the fact that Mike is he's on the hot seat over there in Green Bay, and they're not sure whether he's going to survive the year. But the one thing that they were talking about was that McCarthy was obviously a lot of I don't want to say a less the pampered coach, but he lets the players go for the work week. He lets them not be in pads. And Jones let it slip that he had spoken to Jordy Nelson and that Gruden has all of the players running 100 miles an hour in full pads the entire week. And I think Eisen at that point saw that he had I want to say a scoop with what Jones was saying, probably something that he probably should not have let out to the audience. Gave him a follow-up question, and like a good politician, Jones sidestepped the issue, where it was obviously let it be slipped that Nelson was not. I mean, you can, if you read between the lines, Nelson was definitely not happy with the way that Gruden is running this team. So I put it to you, and this kind of segues along with what we were talking about with Carr. I don't think that Nelson's going to be there next year, and at $7 million, I think that the Raiders will obviously be spending that money elsewhere as well. But with that offensive line that you were talking about, they're hurt or they're rookies, and obviously Parker definitely needs a little bit more seasoning at right tackle. But the question always remains, who is going to be on this team next year. I mean, I'm thinking Nelson is gone, but is Derek Carr going to be there? I ask you.
I think it's ridiculous to think that he's going anywhere unless there is absolutely some horrendous drop in his play, which let's face it, there has not been. He's been right like one of the only consistent performers on the offense. If we want to look at things objectively, there's no way, there's no how I could ever see Gruden getting rid of him. Now, that being said, I said the same thing about Khalil Mack. I'll go back and apologize for that one. I'm going to take that one in the pants because I know that I said for the longest time, and this was really kind of wishful thinking on my part, but it was also uninformed. And now that I am more informed about the situation, it was really clear to me why we lost he who should not be named. However, Carr and Gruden are thick as thieves. They're best buddies. They have no issues. I mean, they have it out on the sidelines like they did a couple weeks ago, which Carr deserved every second of that. You should know as an NFL quarterback in your how many years has he been doing this now? What is this, 6?
Well, his fifth year.
His 5th year, sorry, yes. I always want to think that he's had more because he just seems like he should be smarter than that. You can't call a back-to-back timeout. It doesn't work that way. So he deserved every bit of that jawing, but then he gave it right back to Gruden a few plays later, and everything's fine. That's how you should be on a football field. That's where you leave all that anger, and that's where you leave all that frustration. Bring it out with you. Win a game. That's what happened. I want to see more of that. But there's no way that I could possibly agree with anybody assuming that Gruden would get rid of Carr or that Carr would want to go anywhere.
The thing is, though, and I agree with you, I wholeheartedly there as well. But I will say this: I'm hoping that's right. But if the offer came from team to remain nameless, but let's call 2. Let's say the New York Giants give a phone call, or the Jacksonville Jaguars, which have really gone to crap. I would imagine that the call is probably going to come from New York because I think that New York is playing a hell of a lot better, even though that they have about the same amount of wins as Jacksonville at this point. I think Jacksonville maybe might have one more, but I think that New York is ready to assume a position with a good quarterback. If New York gives a call or Jacksonville gives a call, and they're ready, and the offer is there for somebody that's really really good percentage wise, the call is there. They give us another first rounder. Do the Raiders take that call? Do the Raiders actually trade Derek Carr for a first rounder?
And who's going to be the quarterback if they do?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying that
that's the bottom line is there's nobody out there and there's nobody coming out in the draft that is going to be better than what Derek Carr can offer. He's worth more than one first round pick because when you have a franchise quarterback, which he needs to be given time to show that he is because this is his 4th game plan in his 5 years. Okay. Consistency has to be a part of the recipe. Otherwise, any quarterback is going to struggle. If you look at the best quarterbacks in the league, they all have 10+ year relationships with their coaches, all of them. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they all have a decade with their coaches, if not more. And that is a key to success. I don't think there's enough first round picks that New York or Jacksonville or any of those other struggling teams would be willing to give up for Derek Carr. I think New York at this point, if you're looking at just like, you have to think about what these teams are looking to do in the next 5 or 10 years. New York is on the fringe of being able to rebuild a team. They have a great first round pick that they just got in this draft. Saquon Barkley was huge for them. Now, what happens if they hit on a quarterback this draft or the next draft? Then they have somebody set up for the next 10, 15, even longer. That's going to give them that time. I don't think that they're going to trade away a first round option for them, just to get a guy who's obviously struggled in every single year except for one. And I mean, looking at Derek Carr's history, a lot of the scouts are going to think a lot of the things that ignorant football fans think, and that's that Derek Carr doesn't have any talent. And I apologize if there are football fans listening who think that, but you are being ignorant of the facts. He is a good football player. Anybody needs time to adjust because right now he's looking at Greek and all he's ever learned is Latin. There's got to be an adjustment period. I don't think there's any amount of first round picks that would be given up that Gruden would take for Derek Carr.
Well, I tell you what, speaking of Greek and Latin, we are joined by the world traveler here, and he's missed a bit of the conversation. So if you hear him clearing his throat, this is Big L coming in here, who snapped open a adult beverage of brisk tea, by the way.
Yar.
So, Al, what's your take on the? You're a little bit late to the party here, but we were talking about the bad officiating. We're talking about Derek Carr obviously being here. First off, give us part of your take of what you thought might have happened this week, this past week with the Ravens, and what the Raiders can do to right the wrongs of how they were basically screwed over by some bad officiating, and it pretty much cost us the game.
Well, first off, I'll say, hello, Huckleberry.
Hello, Big Late.
You know what? Don't start
That's
with
what
me,
that L
woman.
stands
I
for.
mean, the world does not need to know about our love affair, but we can go straight to the counseling couch if you want to go there. As far as this past week, the officiating was absolutely horrible, but then as Raider fans, we should be used to that ever since Pete Rozelle and Al Davis have been having their issues. The officiating was horrible. For every 2 times one of our players got the absolute living hell knocked out of them, the referees kind of rolled their eyes and gave an oops, my bad. So there was poor officiating. There were calls not made. Every time there was even a remotely successful pass play by the Ravens, you saw somebody in a headlock or a front face lock on our D line. It's not the fact that we're not getting pressure, or at least last week it wasn't the fact that there wasn't pressure. There was somebody getting held right before the ball got thrown. You can go back and look if you care to do that. That's what happened. And as far as I came in on the conversation quick enough to pick up on the fact that, I mean, you keyboard kingpins and all you non-knowledgeable idiots that have the audacity to think that Derek Carr has no talent or he's the reason for the season of misery. That's why I quit paying attention, and I got out of all the groups where you idiots run around and the primary thing that y'all enjoy to do. I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to come and say it the way that I feel. You don't know what you're talking about. That's why you complain. Because complaining's easier to do than think. So the reality of it is this. The man is talented. Okay, the first thing you got to do is psychologically get over the fact that you got your leg put on backwards. Part of the thing that he had to quit doing, which he has quit doing over the past 3 weeks, which is looking down and paying attention to the pass rush. He's starting to look downfield. He's getting comfortable with the system. He's beginning to get mobile again and move around. But right now, he's playing with a bunch of receivers that he's no longer comfortable with, because the ones he were comfortable with were the half-effort, pissing and whining locker room cancers and the Amari Coopers of the world that all of a sudden everybody's saying, see, why didn't we keep him? Because the effort that he's putting forth in Dallas is for the contract that he wants, and he didn't give that effort here for the last year and a half. go check the statistics. The reason why, I mean, when you're going into your second contract negotiations based on potential, potential is a draft day word. Potential is not a second contract day word. So, if we're going to go into negotiations for potential, we may as well use one of those first round picks or another draft pick for a new receiver, not the same old one that we've been wasting potential on for 4 years. Crabtree, okay, that was a coverage problem. We got out-coached. I mean, the one time we went empty backfield, 5 wide, and they couldn't cover anything because they were mind screwed by the fact that we weren't in the same predictable formation the whole game. And the one time we did it, receivers were wide open. Go figure. Why do you keep calling 5 and 7 step drops the whole game? You want to blame Carr? Why are you blaming Carr when all he's doing is what they're sending in? If you don't even give him an audible for a 3-step drop, I mean, fine. Line up in the same formation and then blow their mind. Send the back in motion or send somebody in the backfield in motion to completely screw everything up. They had 7 and 8 men in the box. Nobody was deeper than 10 yards the entire game. Because why? There was absolutely no respect for our coordination because they knew there was absolutely no way that they were blitzing every play. Why? Because there was no respect for our run game, because they knew every run play, because it was basic and vanilla, because they've been running out of the same formations all season. That's a lack of creativity on the coordinators. Quit blaming the players that are out there busting their asses. If the creation of what they're supposed to be doing is not up to par, quit blaming the players. That's a coaching issue. Everybody is on working interview. That includes the coordinators. But why waste the time to change it now? Ride the season out. That's what faith is. You fake-ass fans, you. Always constantly complaining and bitching and moaning.
Well, tell us how you really feel there, Big L.
I'm
You gonna
sick
take
of
that
it.
soapbox away from him now?
It ain't a soapbox. It's a pulpit at this point. Soapboxes is for idiots that don't know better. If you ain't never played this game, then shut the hell up, sit back and take a note instead of running your damn mouth and reacting to shit in garages and in your mama's basements. If you don't know, be quiet.
Oh.
We just got some fire there.
I think the sizzle was put where it should be. But anyway.
And send your responses where they're supposed to be. I'm the one that said it. If you got the balls, come to my front door and say something.
Oh Lord.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Now that we got that out of the way, and we're going to take a stylistic break here, because first off, I want to take care of some of the administrative issues here.
Ooh, do we get paid?
I'm sorry, hon?
Do we get paid?
Oh, administrative? Sure. Is this, do you need to use the restroom real quick, or
No.
is it a pay break?
No, just checks in the mail kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I could definitely give a administrative break, and the other thing of I promise not to other things, but I won't say that. Anyway, for those that are going to be coming out to the game this weekend, there's a couple things that I want to draw your attention to as well.
You going to this game this
yes,
weekend?
I'm going to the game this weekend.
Cool.
That is for sure. In D-Lot, Steve Rader Bigby is going to have a charity toy drive event. So make sure that you bring yourself a toy. Look for Raider B. He's going to be in Lot D. And if you bring a unwrapped new toy, don't go in and grab one from the case and shine it up real quick and do that. No. Brand new unwrapped toy. Bring it with you.
For children, sickos.
Okay, yeah. That thank you for adding that there, Al, because again, there might be
just for
some
those
people
three people that think like Big Al.
Look, there's a whole stadium of them in Buffalo.
That's true. Okay, again, children's toy up to teenagers, young teenagers. bring it into Lot D, find Raider B, and for that effort, you will get all-you-can-eat tacos and drinks. So, again, one toy gets you all-you-can-eat tacos and drinks, and I will say I have had tacos, and I have had his bacon-wrapped jalapenos are the best. I'm not sure if they're going to have them there.
Bacon wrapped cream cheese stuff.
Yep, bacon wrapped cream cheese. Oh, they're awesome. You know what? And if I get one, I'll probably go live for about 3 seconds so that you guys can see me enjoying a bacon wrapped jalapeno cream cheese wrapped delight. But go see Raider B with the toy
In Lot B.
No, that's in Lot Delta.
Lot Delta. Okay.
Yeah. Now, since we are talking about the B lot. And
okay,
that's a great
segue. That's the other cool one.
Right. Alonzo Skip Thomas's tribute to his father, Skip Thomas. That's Alonzo Thomas. He's going to have that tribute tailgate. I'm going to be heading over there as well. I'm actually going to be bouncing because I promised Zoe that I'll be at his tailgate with a bunch of, and I hate the term super fans, but that's the easy colloquial term. There's going to be plenty of, I like to say, wet and recognized Raider fans there at Zoe's tailgate. So come on out there. There's going to be lots of fun out there as well. It'll be in Lot B, that's Bravo Lot, for Zoe's charity tailgate and tribute to his father, Skip Thomas. That is this weekend. And then next weekend, just for those that don't have toys in the Bay Area, there's a Raider, Raider Nation Princess? I'll get all of this information. I'll put it on my Facebook page. She is having a toy drive. That'll be for the following weekend, and it's not in the Bay Area. It's about 200 miles away. I'll have to get the exact location, but look for, if you're not going to be heading to the game this weekend with a toy and you're a little bit farther away, go see Raider Nation Princess with her toy drive as well. So bring a toy, bring yourself, go get some tacos, have fun. Captain Jack is going to be there, and we're going to have a ball. We're going to be facing those nasty ketchup and mustard wearing.
I'm not going to say it.
I can't. I thank you for not saying it.
I'm not saying it.
I'm not saying it.
Andrea's thinking it, but I'm not saying
What
it.
do you think?
I
Andrea?
never think stuff like that.
Then how do you know what I'm thinking?
I have no idea. I just know the kind of things that you do think, and I'm certain that it's not that.
But see, I'm not thinking it.
Well, while we're doing that as well, further administration notes, you got what's going on this weekend. Let's look at the team as a whole. In case you've missed it, there's been some roster moves. The Raiders have signed a tackle/guard, Chaz Green. He who had played for the Dallas Cowboys that gave up 4 sacks in one game before he was mercifully relieved. I know Chaz Green because he's a Gator. That's about the best thing I can say, is that at least I know who he was. The fact that he gave up 4 sacks in one game as a Cowboy last year, not really great. But then again, hey, another body for the squad. One person I'm actually pretty excited about grabbing is the tight end Darren Waller, who was on the Ravens practice squad. I tell you, the Ravens have a very good, shall we say, their tight ends are great. I mean, when you have Ozzie Newsome as your general manager, who was a fantastic tight end, a Hall of Fame tight end, if I'm not mistaken, with guys like Todd Heap and the other people that they've been able to draft, and they had 2 tight ends this past weekend that just all they could do was just grab everything that was in front of them. So this guy was a very large, fast tight end. Again, name of Darren Waller. The issue is this. Yeah, he ran a 4.6 40 in the for his measurables, but I've also been told he's about 1 strike away from being on the NFL's banned for a season list. So as long as him and Martavis can stay away from the cannabis, we got a really good player in the midst. And one of the people were asking, why did they sign Darren Waller? And if you possibly read between the lines, who is our best receiver, Andrea?
Jared Cook.
And what is the likelihood of Jared Cook might not be willing to hang out with a team where he is, even though he's the best receiver, he might be a bit disillusioned?
I don't know. I've never heard anything about Jared Cook being at all unhappy. He's been very defensive of his team and Coach Gruden. So I don't think there's a high likelihood. I would be pretty surprised if he went somewhere else. The only problem I think would be his age might be an issue because he is, what is he, 32 now, I think. But he's playing some of the best football he's ever played.
He is playing the best football he's ever played. And I tell you what, there was a guy by the name of Roland Williams that came in and played remarkably for Gruden 1.0. So Jared Cook is an even better receiver. His blocking skills aren't as good as Lee Smith's, but I think that if the Raiders can sign any tight end, they better sign Jared Cook. And if not, then they have somebody that they would possibly bring in. Obviously, the new signing by Waller, and of course, Derek Carrier is also a tight end that doesn't get a lot of his fair shrift, but he's a very good tight end. I think that going in, I'm not even sure if Pharaoh Brown is on the practice squad anymore, but the Raiders have some options at tight end. I think he was gone.
Yeah, I think Brown is gone. But the other thing to me is schematically. One of the things I was thinking about, like when I called in to Captain Jack's Collins show.
Oh, Captain Jack's Collins show. Yeah.
I was talking about with Jordy. Jordy has pretty much been reduced with his injuries and the just drastic decline of his physical abilities. Jordy is pretty much a small tight end as far as his speed and basically his deterioration in this year. Schematically, Jared is kind of playing in the role that they intended for Jordy to play, so you may end up signing Waller to take Jared's role in the scheme. And we have a lot of success with the two strike guys, because not only are we having success with them, we have an economic advantage with them because their contracts are incentive laden, which means they are, an economic advantage for us. And we can also motivate them because they can be backloaded, because that way they are a financial advantage for them, because if they're backloaded, it's an incentive to
get them to Vegas.
Yeah. One, and then two, with Jared Cook. I mean, Jared, we still have him pinned down for another year, I think, after this year.
I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check that. Andrea, do you know if Cook is... I thought he was on... This was his last year.
I thought when we inked him up, we inked him for 3, not 2. So
if anybody knows, it's Miss Trask.
Well, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's certainly something I can look up, and I am happy to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, and see, and that's the thing. I mean, as far as personnel goes, I mean, I think the smartest thing that happened was this past offseason was, if you notice, all of the veterans that we signed, most of them
are on 1-2 year deals.
Well,
most of them are actually on 1 year deals.
They're 1 years with an option for the second year, and most of them are gone.
Yeah.
They all got released, and oh my goodness, I'm so glad that Melvin was a 1 year kick the tires kind of situation, because
speaking about kicking, anybody should want to kick him upside the head, saying that he didn't want to play in the scheme.
That's fine. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
I mean, you kumbaya with Reggie Nelson, and later.
Hey, Reggie Nelson got a pick this weekend. Don't give
that
man
what?
too
Don't
much
make
crap.
me fly up.
I was going to say, Angria, if I was on the field, this 53-year-old body which couldn't run down a preschooler at this point. If I was in where Reggie Nelson was, even I Captain Jack could have gotten a pick. Which is the same thing he did from before. I mean, at least he didn't drop it. I'll give him that. So, hooray for Reggie Nelson getting the pick. But, you're going to need a little bit more than that pick along with the other pick, which was thrown right at him. He has 2 interceptions this year. I don't think he has 3. And I know that at least 2 of them were basically right spot, right time type of thing.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. 2016, he went to the Pro Bowl, and it was all based on 6 picks that were right place, right time. Yeah. They finished games, but none of those, as far as I recall, were talent.
Last year, isn't she? Last place schedule. You're talking about the leg put on backwards year.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the year Reggie went to the Pro Bowl. We had 7 Pro Bowlers that year. And he went to the Pro Bowl on 6 picks that were basically, he was just there when he needed to be. Somebody needed to be standing in that spot.
Okay. Well, at least he was.
He was, yes. So, I think that's just kind of Reggie. Since he left Cincinnati, he just hasn't. Well, he was. I don't know. He hasn't impressed me much.
I was going to say, I'm hoping that we do not have him on our team next year. I'm just saying that.
I hoped we didn't have him on the team this year, but.
Well, I mean, look, I've been saying that since last year.
We were definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want him on the team last year. We didn't want him on the team this year, and I certainly hope we don't have him on the team next year.
You're preaching to the choir over here, because that's the way I got the captain ready to kill me in the preseason.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
All I had to do was say Reggie Nelson.
Yeah, that was for like a shows that we won't talk about because they were highly reactive.
The Queen's English was in rare form.
Yes. Reggie Nelson will inspire a plethora of F-bombs from myself.
Yes.
I seem to recall a couple of those.
Yeah. Finishing up on the administrative issues, one other thing, actually 2 things. I'm gonna say this one first, and I'm gonna go to one that actually is going to be invoking some thought. Okay. First one is Andy Dalton is on the IR now for Cincinnati, so our chances of winning in Cincinnati has went up immeasurably. The Bengals quarterback is a gentleman by the name of Driscoll. I know Mr. Driscoll real well. I actually know his father a hell of a lot better because Jerry and I went to elementary school and junior high school and high school. So Jerry Driscoll, if you're out there, and I'll probably have to figure out how to get a hold of him. Dude, I need to hook up with your son so I can get a picture saying that I was with the younger Driscoll. So again, a little bit of a personal shout out. Anyway, Andrea, with the IR being for Andy Dalton and the way that the Bengals have been playing recently, do you think that we actually might be able to go into the Queen City and get a victory?
I have always thought we could because the Bengals are a weird team in that they're kind of one of those teams that loses to the people they shouldn't lose to. This like last weekend, they got their butts handed to them by the Browns. And the Browns have been hot and cold, but mostly cold still. But it was a huge division win, and the Bengals should have fought for that, and they just didn't. So once Dalton went off the field, it was like, I mean, they got another score after that, but they still couldn't come back from, what was it, a 34-20 deficit? I think we have a huge shot against them, and especially with seeing some of the pieces that I'm seeing coming together. Like we talked about earlier, Captain, we're looking at things that are, individual spots, little spots, not the whole team coming together because we're not ready for that yet. But all these little places, I see them coming together. I see pass rush actually happening. I see, run defense actually working itself. It's getting there. And I see Carr, like you said, Big L, running out of the pocket. He's actually ran some plays. I am amazed, and I'm so happy. He's actually looking downfield. He hit Jared Cook a couple of times this last week with some bombs that people just hadn't seen coming. Seth Roberts caught a huge pass, and I was, it was like, what the hell? What happened? I just don't know what happened there. But, Seth Roberts was our biggest receiver this last weekend. So I do think we have an opportunity here to be 3-13. Now, that being said, the only 2 games we've won have been games that Just Win Ladies has attended. So we can take up a collection to send us to a game. We've asked for that on Twitter, but no luck so far.
Well, I'm going to the Cincinnati game, and I would love to have you hang out with me there. So if we could figure out a way to get you there, and if we want to get you there for the Chiefs game, I got an extra ticket. So see if we can get here. Here it is. If you can say maybe spring, I think it's probably going to cost about $900 to get you out of Alaska to Oakland and back.
Yeah, about 1,000, I think, is what it was.
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, if you guys can take the collection up and do a GoFundMe to get Angria to the game this weekend, all we need to do is just get her down here for a flight. I mean, I got her covered with a game ticket, and the room I has 2 beds in it, so she'll be able to sleep in her own bed, and we'll share the bathroom, but I'll make sure we're on a arrangement where we can do it like they do on The Big Bang Theory. We'll have a schedule, so we'll be able to take care of that. So if you can get Angria out of Alaska to get her to the game this weekend, we might get a victory this weekend against the Chiefs.
I'll let you borrow my change maker if it'll help.
I don't know if that's going to work.
Hey, depends on how well you wiggle.
And which is a great segue to the next thing that I was going to talk about. Speaking of wiggling, some of the activities here that occurred this past Sunday was I wouldn't want to say, and again, I was being a little bit flippant, but let's talk about something that really isn't a really flippant subject, and that was with Mr. Reuben Foster, a first-round pick of the 49ers, who is not once, not twice, but a 3-time loser on domestic violence, shall we say, allegations. I can't say for sure because it's always allegedly. Don't ever let it be said that I gave up a slander or a smear. This allegations led to Foster being immediately dropped by the Niners, but he didn't stay out of work long because the Washington Redskins, who are sensing that maybe they need to do whatever they need to do in order to get to those playoffs this year, they picked him up immediately. So now, Angria, here's the thing. People were clamoring, and I won't say who, but I will say that there were some people in Raider Nation that were clamoring for the talented but very troubled Reuben Foster to join our linebacker corps. I know I wanted nothing to do with him because of it is. It is. I mean, no matter what you do, you keep your hands off of women in such a way. But I mean, I know. I kind of think I know what's going to come out of your mouth. But go ahead, there, Angry. I go off and just let him have it.
Did you hear my dog snort over here? Even he's snorting, laughing at that whole Reuben Foster
didn't
thing.
Quite hear that.
I thought it was a fart.
Well, yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyone who's a true Raiders fan knows Fred Biletnikoff and knows the struggle that he had. His daughter was murdered by her boyfriend in a domestic violence dispute, and we don't put up with that. So the Raiders aren't going to pick up a guy who's a 3-time loser. I can't, you can only give so much credence to a woman who complains that someone's beating her and then she goes right back to him over and over again. That's something I don't understand. It's a mindset I don't get. But if it's happening, and obviously he's putting himself in a position where it's a feasible, accusation, it's a feasible investigation by the cops because they've done it before, then obviously he's got some problems. There's treatment for domestic violence. There is both ways. So if people have to go to mental health treatment, people have to go to drug and alcohol rehab, there should be something required for this guy to go. I don't think he should be playing football. I don't think he should be able to step on a field until he gets some sort of some clearance. I mean, it's not okay.
Belinda Gay's wife got it right. She shot him. But my thing is this. Yeah, I don't know if there's 90% of our people out there listening don't remember. Belinda Gay was a high-level defensive end for the Philadelphia Eagles who was shot and killed after continually beating his wife. She got his gun and killed him. But that was back in the 70s.
Bravo.
And she did not face any jail time. But this was back in the, late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah, yeah.
But this is the thing. Take a lesson from baseball. You get arrested, you get accused. Baseball, you're suspended until all litigation is completed. And then baseball will institute their discipline. You're not allowed to play. Period. You get arrested, you're taken off the field. That's how baseball deals with this crap. So this, we're going to release you, but these desperate idiots over in D.C. pick you up?
I don't know, maybe it's the water over there in the Chesapeake area, but you have Ray Rice Jr., and then you have now coming back in, you have Reuben Foster. Maybe it's the Tidewater water that is making these people make some really stupid moves.
And let's not forget that the coming into town this week, we have Tyreek Hill, who coming out of college.
He's still getting accused of shit.
Yeah, he was beating on his pregnant girlfriend.
Actually, you guys just spoiled my segue. Boy, I tell you, I was about ready to jump on that, but no, that is a very
It was Elle's fault.
Yeah, that's a very, like I said, this guy should not be in the NFL, but you know what? He's a Pro Bowler.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just interject really quick about, you mentioned Ray Rice, and I have to say Ray Rice, to me, took the right path. And here's why. Mm-hmm. Ray Rice wanted to play in the NFL so bad, and he wanted to prove so badly that domestic violence wasn't something that he would, it's not something that he would do again. He offered to donate 100% of his paychecks to domestic violence women's shelters. And that's the right way to go. We haven't heard one peep out of him since that whole situation went down. And that, I think, speaks to a little bit of his, I don't want to say his character, but I think that's probably the best word for it. Then you have guys like Adrian Peterson, who just, I guess last week was interviewed for something, and he said that he still beats his kids with switches.
And by the way, what team does Adrian Peterson play for?
Oh yeah, that might be the Redskins. Is it the Redskins? I think it's the Redskins.
Yep.
So obviously they ain't got no issues with it, but
nope, not at all.
And then
wait till one of your stars loses a child.
The coach, the owner, they all said that they interviewed the players. They interviewed his old Alabama teammates and everybody, saying that they talked to him about his character and everything. Clinton Dix came out and said, nobody talked to me. So even the management and the coach lied about it. And then the ownership and the team management completely threw Gruden under the bus and sent him out to the wolves.
We're talking about Jay Gruden.
Oh yeah, I wanted to make sure everybody know that Jay Gruden, not Gruden. John Gruden.
They sent him out to the wolves. They all hid and sent the coach, who basically knew nothing about this,
setting him up for failure.
Knew very, very little. Said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we signed Foster. Press conference in 10. Go get him, Tiger."
They've already set Jay Gruden up for failure. I think this is a lame duck year for him anyways. So
his
I'm not
best bet at
that.
salvaging his job got Theismann a couple of weeks ago. So,
well, there'll probably be some room on our staff for an offensive-minded guy come next year.
Sweet Jesus, one could only hope.
Oh my God, can you imagine 3 Grudens on a field?
Hey, I'm cool with Deuce.
3.
You can put some pads on Deuce and let him be a wedge buster.
Let Deuce be, exactly, man. Let Deuce be a nose tackle, man. Hell.
Shh. That dude, I mean, he's 5 foot nothing and built like a brick shit house. Exactly. Pardon my language, but
it
had to be said.
Up his behind and put him in the middle of a line.
All he has to do is stand there.
Hey.
Go after him.
Maybe just squat a little bit and put his arms out. He can't put them down anyway, so he might as well put them out. Clothesline people.
I'm telling you.
I'd be happy to see that.
He could make a pile that any linebacker would love. Just throw him in there at a 0 or a 1 technique and let him just cause problems.
And I'm sure he knows how.
I'm sure he does. Now, since we got rid of the administrators, and like I said, again, we do have to preface this only because of legal purposes that allegedly Foster did these things. But okay, I only say the word allegedly because I'm required to in order to not get any problems with allegations of slander and libel.
And that's why I love what baseball does, because allegedly, baseball eliminates the alleged. It's like you get arrested, you get suspended. But they take you off the field. You don't get to play.
I got you.
Because think about it. Addison Russell got his charge. His wife filed allegations from something. You didn't see Addison Russell from a little bit after the All-Star break through the rest of the year. He wasn't hurt. He was off the field because of the abuse allegations. He hasn't played, and he's not scheduled to play until next year. And even then, if this isn't settled, he won't see the field because then Major League Baseball is going to administer their discipline.
Well, one thing that we will see on the field this weekend is the Raiders playing those nasty Kansas City Chiefs. Getting back to track here.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, the Dallas Texans.
Yeah, the Dallas Texans.
I ain't even going to call them that.
Okay. Angria, give me. I was going to say I'm going to set you up here. You can freestyle your booty off. What's your take on what's going to happen? What do you want to see happen? Just go ahead and just spit all of that knowledge out to all of the people out there, because I know that I want to hear your take.
I'm ready to make it rain. Come on, sister.
Well, my take is that it's going to be a tough week for us. However, I think the pluses that we have going for us are that the Raiders have been really focusing and I think doing a rather good job of run defense. I also think that the Chiefs have not much of a defense to speak of. So if we're going to shine anywhere, it needs to be there. They still have a couple of really old-ass pass rushers, Justin Houston and Dee Ford. I think Dee Ford's still there. Is he dead yet?
No, Dee Ford's there. And I don't know. I wouldn't call him old. He's only about a 5-year pro.
Yeah, well, he acts old. he is not much impressive to me lately. The last few years, I just been, whatever. I'm not impressed. So, but the bottom line is that they like to run the ball a lot. Okay, so Patrick Mahomes is a running quarterback, just a lot like Lamar Jackson, except he throws the ball a lot better and he doesn't run quite as well. So what we need to focus on, and hopefully this is my biggest concern, is that pass defense. If we can actually focus on something and contain that Tyreek Hill, or at least attempt, and the biggest problem that we're going to see is containing Travis Kelce. We don't do well against tight ends.
We haven't done well against tight ends for about 20 years.
Yeah.
We did better when we had Bowman, but,
Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We don't have Bowman, so moving on. We don't do well right now. However, I did see some flashes from a couple of the linebackers. Now, I know Tahir Whitehead has been just an abomination this year, but
wait time out. Have you noticed how well Tahir Whitehead has been playing ever since they got rid of Irvin?
I'm sorry?
Have you noticed how well Tahir Whitehead has been playing since they got rid of Irvin? Because him and
That's
Irvin
exactly
did
what my
not get
point was going
along.
to be. You hit it right on the head. He did some really good coverage this weekend. Really good run defense. I think he was in a couple of places at the right times. He put himself in the right places. So if we can get him matched up on Travis Kelce and just maybe drop an extra like a too high safety or something just to keep him contained a little bit more, then I think we have a really good shot. I don't think we have a great shot. I think we have an okay shot.
When you said to drop something, I thought you said drop an elbow on Travis Kelce. I said I
Oh,
would
you can do
definitely
that too.
volunteer to
That's
do
fine.
that.
We're gonna get flags for stuff anyways. You might as well make it good,
Yeah, earn your money.
right?
But the thing is, for me, like I've said and I've shared with Captain in the last couple of weeks, since we're stripping everything down to since the commitment to strip everything down to the foundation has been just made, and it's just been open and overt and no longer just ripping the Band-Aid off and just putting the kids in to get their sea legs, so to speak. The effort has been off the charts. Okay, if you're gonna make a mistake, as my coach has always said, make your mistakes at 100 miles an hour. And that's what these kids have been doing, which is why the defense has looked better. They may not have always been in the right place. However, they've been doing it at full speed. And as they're out there making these mistakes, they're learning. And as they're learning, like you said, okay, Tahir Whitehead's been an abomination, but you get the cancer out of his way, and he's been gradually getting better. Markel Lee, okay, he
had a couple of really good hits
great.
this weekend.
Exactly. You got you got Johnson's oxygen thieving ass completely out off the reservation.
Oh, come on, give Derek Johnson a little bit of love.
Don't
He was
make
so
me come to Alaska.
He was so
and
kind
his
to the
receding
Raiders.
hairline.
Calm down.
No, the man's forehead extended back behind his earlobes.
That has nothing to do with his character.
Okay,
character.
You can have character.
Yeah, character.
I mean,
be damned, the guy couldn't play.
I don't care how much character he had. He hadn't been able to play middle linebacker since 1997. So
I don't think he was drafted until '99. I'm just
which
that'll let you know something.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't even drafted, he definitely haven't been able to play linebacker in a while.
Yeah.
But the point being, Lee has been playing better and better and better now that he's got him out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting better because he's getting more reps. The more reps these kids get this year, the better they're going to be next year.
Yeah, Markel Lee's been playing a lot better, as has been Morrow, and I've been wanting to see a bit more Morrow out there. And actually, Kabinda has been playing quite well at middle linebacker as well. What's your take on that there, Angria?
I agree. I think what we've seen on the field has been a steady, slow improvement. These guys are getting used to working with each other, and now they're taking more reps per game. So we don't have to see this revolving door at the front seven. And I think that was probably part of the game plan. I think Gunther needs to see who's out there to be there. I mean, who wants to be there, who's going to be able to run these plays, and who's going to be able to step up both in pass and run defense. That front seven is where it needs to start. And I do believe that we have some amazing building blocks there. Our three rookies, I can say nothing bad about them. I think they're trying their asses off. I think they're all committed to each other as well as the team. And I really see good things. Maurice Hurst has 4 sacks already this year, which matches at this point Khalil Mack's 4 sacks in his rookie year.
He who shall remain nameless.
He who shall remain nameless got 4 sacks in his rookie year. However, Mose isn't over yet. So we'll see how that one works.
And he's getting his sacks from a position where you don't normally
where it is so much more difficult. Exactly. That is why I said this last week on Just Win Ladies. This is why Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the league, because he plays that position that is twice as hard and gets rival numbers for your best pass rushers in the league.
Exactly. He's playing tackle where his job is not to get sacks, and he generates chaos from
Uh-huh.
inside. You're expected. It's an expectation as a defensive end to get sacks.
I was going to say, if it wasn't for Donald playing his ass off against the Chiefs, was it on that game, that night game? Was it
Monday
Thursday
night?
Monday night, whatever it was, and
Mm-hmm.
Ebukam being the benefactor of 2 turnovers was basically right off of Aaron Donald's strips, and also the other things he had. He had a strip fumble. He also had another good play, and then of course he even had because of the rush, he had the interception for a touchdown. It was all because of Aaron Donald's play.
Right. It was Donald. And see, and that's the thing. Everybody's like, we have to replace Khalil. Damn, Khalil. If you can generate pressure in a quarterback's face, that is far more damaging than bringing it off the end.
Now, the one thing that, and I agree with this well, but have you heard? Because remember, the Raiders were playing rather okay. I don't want to say that they were playing superb, but when Hurst went out with the game last week, the run defense immediately suffered. So, have you heard? Has Mo Hurst returned to practice? Are we expecting him this week?
Hurst is back in practice, but the other thing is, both of our rookie tackles have played exceptional.
Oh, I got that.
And the rookie wall, they're completely up against it. So I'm impressed with the fact that at this stage in the season, they're still playing. And if you haven't also noticed, the other person that has greatly benefited from Irvin disappearing is Arden Key. Key has gradually become further and every week he's getting better and better. Okay, he's missing tackles.
Yes.
But that's also because he hasn't had a full professional offseason.
Yeah,
Those are tackles that he made in college.
Right. But the
He's
thing
not
is, with
used to dealing with NFL caliber running backs.
right, and Key will be a lot better next year once he has that strength and conditioning where he can throw some weight on.
Exactly.
And that goes for Hurst, that goes for PJ Hall, that goes for Key. These guys are going to be so much better next year when they pack on the weight and they get their strength up. Because they're getting the playing time and they're getting the reps that they need, but they're going to be a lot better once they get the strength going with them too.
I think with Hurst, it's not necessarily packing on weight. With Hurst, it's going to be lean, getting lean.
I'm
yeah,
talking
because
about
he's a
with
big
Key.
boy already.
Yeah. And with PJ Hall, it's going to be leaning up, meaning getting off some of his baby fat,
Right.
and transitioning the way Ellis did, but Ellis didn't necessarily translate into better play.
Well, like I said, Key is about gaining weight. The other two is about getting leaner and quicker.
Well, if Mo Hurst gets any quicker, they're going to try to move him to end, and I really don't want to do that. We'll find an end via free agency, or we'll find another one in the draft. However, we don't need another inside man, because I think Vanderdoes is the third tackle that we need. We may end up getting and I think, like, for what it's worth, we have a couple of veteran D tackles that will be able to rotate in and out for the next couple of years.
Well,
with the three kids we have what we need in the front in the
Yeah, well,
in the
and
tackle
that was
position.
going to be the only thing that I had a dissenting view on, because Angria, you said that we have a bunch of youngsters up there. We do, but remember, Frosty Rucker is not a youngster.
Oh, yeah, Frosty.
Yeah, McDaniel is not a youngster, and Jaquez Smith, who by the way went on the IR the other day, he's not a youngster. So we do have some. I don't want to say they're long in the tooth. Frosty's long in the tooth. Yeah, Frosty is about as old as a Frosty at this point.
He's as old as Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is what I'll say about Frosty. You don't stay in this league for 13, 14 years at that position without knowing one, effort and determination, and knowing what you're doing.
And technique, yes.
Yeah, he knows. He's teaching them kids, because notice, since he's been there, their game's picked up.
Yep.
He's a coach on the field for those kids.
That's
you may not
what
like Gunther,
the
but his
veterans
magic is popping.
are for.
What Gunther did is slowly beginning to permeate. Now, Reggie Nelson? No.
Yeah.
That didn't necessarily permeate, but then again, I think also, I know you're not going to like this, Cap.
Oh, boy.
In Reggie's defense, which is very, very, it's not easy for me to say this. I already feel my guts bubbling. In Reggie's defense, there wasn't as much talent in the secondary as we thought. There were a lot of names back there, that people were familiar with like Melifuanu and all of those.
Who?
Whatever his name was.
No, I'm just saying he's gone.
Yeah, I know, and there's a reason why, because
he's a JDR pick.
It got exposed,
right?
That it was a name, and he looked good, and it sounded good. There's a couple of other ones that were back there that are gone now, but it got exposed when you got a legitimate D coordinator back there. Everybody wants to have a fit. Well, it's a wasted pick. No, it wasn't a wasted pick. It was a very legitimate pick when he got picked.
Well, it was a JDR pick for that scheme, and he does not fit the scheme.
Right. For everybody that's having a fit, what's he doing in New England now?
One thing I do want to say is, Angria, you kind of got stepped on when we were talking about the scheme, and I wanted to make sure that your thoughts were heard, because we kind of overwrote you on that.
Oh, and if I did, I'm sorry. I got excited.
I forgot what I was saying, so all's good.
It's his fault.
Well, I did try to throw it back at you. So
I got blamed the last time, so it's your fault.
It was yours, but I was just being nice and saying both of us. Anyway,
but
anyway, one thing I will say is that Angria said it's going to be a tough day. Okay, Mr. Lips, go ahead and give your take on what you think is going to happen this Sunday.
Well, be capping B.
Okay, Mushmouth.
I have to concur with the Alaskan Assassin. It's probably not going to be nice. What I do think, our run defense has been improving. The best thing that we can do for pass coverage is somehow, some way, if the referees allow us to have a pass rush, meaning if they call a tight game and call holding when it happens, it could allow us an opportunity to maybe get a pass rush, because it's not the fact that we don't have one. It's not as 100% legit as everybody else's. Ours is developing. But they get closer way more often than we get credit for. There's a lot of holding that goes on. Every time Key comes off the end, he's in a headlock.
Yeah, pretty much.
He just doesn't have the, lack of a better term, street cred of a Khalil Mack or of Jackass 50 Y.
50 who.
50 who. 50 FU. Of the more notable DNs or a Von Miller or somebody like that, an edge rusher. He doesn't have that credibility to the point where they're looking or acknowledging the fact that you can't do neck curls, and because we've seen half of that effort on other players get called 10 times over. Key's been getting wrestled and bulldogged to the ground to no avail.
Well, he'll be getting some street cred next year,
and that's another reason why he's missing so many arm tackles, is because he's diving out of holding situations, and so he's off balance or out of position to make the tackles because he's being held and he's lunging instead of being in position to make tackles.
Okay, bottom line there, L.
But I think that it's not going to be pretty this weekend.
Gotcha. Now, and having said that, Angria, do we keep it within 20 points?
Oh, gosh. Well, no.
I was going to say no, too. So you say no, I say no. L, do we keep it within...
Because I think the line is, what, 20 or
the line is ridiculous. It's the worst line as far as for betting. Not that we condone such things, but I think that it was just purely for cupcakes purposes.
For entertainment
Betting
purposes
is
only.
legal.
I think we cover.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. Angria?
I do not believe that we cover the 20.
Okay.
Nah.
Well, it's always
Sorry,
a
Al.
pleasure, definitively, to have, like Elle said, the Alaskan Assassin, my favorite lady. And it's really good to have you back, honey. I know that we've missed you the last 6 weeks, so welcome back to...
It's really been that long?
It's been 6 weeks. Yeah, I was checking it.
Holy cow.
It's always a pleasure to have you in the house. So I'm going to let you sign off first because again we always defer to the ladies.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be back. I didn't even realize it had been that long because we've been so very busy. But I did get to go to my first Raiders game in there somewhere, and we've had a lot of ups and downs. So hopefully here's to more ups than downs for the rest of the season.
Most definitively. And we will definitely we'll have you on next week, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Elle?
And the one thing that I love about all of our downs, we still are not the worst team in the league. As much crap as people talk, we're building. And the other thing that I would like to say is thank you guys. We love doing this. It's our passion, but we do it for the love of the game. We do it for the love of our Raiders, and we do it for the love of you guys. So we look forward to next week. Keep it Raider. Keep it safe. Y'all keep it warm. We're doing our best to keep it warm down here in Florida.
Yeah, it's a chilly 30s. It's gone down to the 30s, Andrea.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Can I just tell you what the temperature here is right now?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's 30 degrees.
It's what?
It's 30 degrees.
Oh, you only got us by about 6 right now.
Yeah.
Global warming. Yes.
We're heading down there. It actually was warmer in Colorado today than it was in Florida.
Wow.
That's okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's just tonight. It'll be up in the 50s tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to get better on Friday when I'm on my way out to California. We're going to have I want to say a nice weekend back into the 80s and high 70s. And yeah, I know it'll probably suck and be cold up there. But then next week, come Monday when I come back, then it's going to be cold again, honey. So it's just a matter of me not being able to get any of the niceties of the warm weather. I'm going to be cold all weekend.
Well, but that's because Captain Jack is so cool, baby.
Yeah, baby. Hey.
That was beautiful.
Well, Raider Nation, it's always a pleasure. As Elle said, we appreciate being on here. I love my co-hosts here. I couldn't do it without them. So again, thank you to Miss Angria Trask of the frigid Great White North, plus a little bit to the left of Alaska, and Big L.
And that's snow, not complexion.
I don't know. I'm pretty white too.
Anyway, you guys have a great week, Raider Nation. Make sure you guys come, guys and gals, mates and wenches. Make sure you pop on to see the ladies podcast. What was the name of that podcast again, Angria?
Just Win Ladies.
There you go, Just Win Ladies, and it's over at the Raiders Podcast Network, correct?
Correct.
There you go.
Gotta
RPN. Gotta love the ladies, the Just Win Ladies podcast, and obviously here on Coast to Coast Raider Nation. Make sure you pop in tomorrow where we'll have another episode of Ask Captain Jack over at the Captain Jack Rackham page. And make sure you just kind of follow up with all of us because we love you and we love to hear from you. So until tomorrow and next week when we're back here for Coast to Coast Raider Nation, it's Captain Jack Rackham for Raider Nation Coast to Coast podcast. Y'all take care, and we'll see you on the flip side. Come back, and we'll talk about how wonderful or how awful the Chiefs game was next week.